This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. And the other fucking guy in the room is Leo. Leo, how are you, man?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How are you?
Dude, that was probably the best 4th of July I've had in 57 years. I'm not that I've never had a good 4th of July, but just with Dawn's daughter and her boyfriend, Tommy, coming to town, and I can't believe they're leaving already. It's,
Feels like they were
went
just
so
here,
fast.
hitting
Well,
the web.
yeah, they just got, and it was short, Thursday, coming in on Thursday night, and we went to BW3, and that was, I don't know why I keep going back to the BW3 here in Queen Creek, the Buffalo Wild Wings, because the service there,
It's awful.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Every time, it's terrible, dude. And it's not good. But how many places are there open till 1 o'clock? You know what I mean? Or whatever. And it was late. So we went there so they could eat, being on the plane ride. But really, from Friday on, we just had a phenomenal time with them, going to the the Diamondbacks game. And the Diamondbacks got stomped on. Like, it was not a
Was it
pretty...
bad? What was the score? Do you remember?
I don't know, 6-2, 7-2.
Jesus.
I don't know. It just
it wasn't a good game for them.
It was not a good game. And Dawn pretty much thought she knew because, Dawn is always pulling up who the fuck is pitching, which is hilarious. But they shouldn't have. Both teams are mediocre. Like their records are close, right? Like,
who were they playing?
the Kansas City Royals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're both like 500 teams, basically. And I think Kansas City's maybe a couple games under. I don't know. We went through this last year with the Diamondbacks. Remember how the Diamondbacks came back the second half of the season and almost made the playoffs?
Almost.
Right. So we saw them at the beginning of the year. They weren't playing well, but, it was good to go see the games. We went during the middle of the year, and it was like they were going through the motions, where they weren't into it with the crowd. They weren't excited. Like, I don't know. It was weird. And I feel like that again, where they're just not into it. You know what was really good was it would great if there was a video of it, of the guy that did the national anthem, and then he also came back out and did the God Bless America later in the game.
At the Diamondback game?
At the Diamondback game. And it was super impressive. He was a firefighter, and he was in the firefighter blues, their dress clothes and stuff with the white gloves. And he had more of that deeper, almost opera-like voice. But it was just so powerful. Like, everybody was just kept. And that brings up another one. We just recently, the last Mercury game we went to, which was like the 29th, I think, something like that. The woman that sang at that, one of the best national anthems I've ever heard. Like, it's way the fuck up there. It was that good. I mean, everybody around us was saying so. They just like almost gave you chills. This woman was so good.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about that during the game. I was wondering, I wonder if there's going to be a video up of this because it was so good. And then, obviously it's a hot day, but the fireworks at night, they opened the roof, which was absolutely fantastic. And it was still cool enough inside, and shooting the fireworks off from there. And it was almost like a finale from the very beginning. The whole fireworks, the whole 20 minutes was. Now, at the end, when they kind of did do a finale, it was a little bit more. But, I mean, it was just shooting off 4 at a time, right from the beginning. Not just boom, boom. Like, it was
back to back to back, like nonstop.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it was phenomenal. It was a great fireworks. You think all fireworks are the same, or you've seen it and not a big deal? No, this one was, like, really, really good. And then the next day, we did basically a 4th of July weekend celebration, like an all-American 4th of July weekend. So you got baseball. Then the next morning, we go out shooting. We got the guns. And holy fuck, dude. I got some pictures of Dawn shooting. And look, I'm an old man, so guys, and she's a year younger than me, so we're old people, but we're pretty good looking old people. and just with her muscles and stuff, it's kind of turning me on, dude. Like, she's ripped holding this gun. Like, she looked badass. I was like, fuck, I like that. And it was her first time shooting.
Oh, wow.
It was her daughter's first time shooting. And then Tommy had shot before, with his friends and stuff, and he loved it because we had some great, great guns there that we were shooting. Brendan was with us. Brendan
Nice.
shot. That's his passion, is guns stuff. Yeah, you've talked to him. Yeah, his passion is just guns. We had a little bit of with my long range rifle. We had a little bit of problems with that, jamming up, and he's gonna clean that one up and stuff. Single bolt action and shooting it really far away. But that's a fun one to shoot for sure. But I have this Ruger. It's called a Ruger PC Charger.
Okay.
And you can look. We had a little bit of problem with it at one point where it was getting a little jammed every 5-10 shots, but the last couple we had no issue with, and you could put up to 50 rounds in this drum.
Oh, the drum magazine?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And it was boom, boom, boom. Yeah, that baby. But mine looks even cooler than those, even, because we got some, like a red trigger, like that one at the bottom. Like, mine looks like that. We put that kind of shit on there. And then I have a folding for the arm part there too. It was just, I don't know. I don't know if I posted pictures of that, of the actual gun. I might have.
On Facebook?
Yeah. But it's all right if we didn't get that other one. Yeah, there's Dawn had a bunch of pictures. See, even look at that. Like, I like those pictures. I look jacked, man. I like looking jacked in the picture. I'm not going to lie. But yeah.
Is that P90?
Yeah, there's the Ruger. And we went and bought that table. I think Friday morning, or no, we did that. We did that Friday morning. We bought the table. But look at her muscles, dude. That's all muscle. That's no soft like shit hanging. You know how women hate that hanging under there. But that table was fantastic.
Yeah, that's the one thing about shooting that people don't really understand is definitely bring a table, because I promise you're going to want to put things down for sure.
Right. Yes, 9mm. Yeah, that's the big one. That one's that's sniper type rifle. 7.62. I mean, the bullet's this fucking big. It's good size, man. It's pretty badass. They showed us another one.
Just take your time.
What was it? It was Sportsman.
That's what that gun's all about.
Okay, I'm just trying to get.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I was trying to remember the name of it. There's one that's like a big chain he doesn't really like.
You're just trying to pick a terrorist off.
That's right.
He doesn't like the Outlaw shield.
Is that the big one in Chandler?
I would think it's
Maybe that's the one we went to. But there's like a big chain one that he doesn't like because he says they're. But I don't really care about it. Dude, we just went up and down the aisles trying to find shit to throw in the cart. We had fun doing that. That's Dawn's daughter shooting for the first time, and our target's way out there.
Nice.
And, dude, we moved those targets. Well, obviously, because there's an angle after getting hit so many times in a row, they kind of moved and stuff. But, so, yeah, picture of us at the game. Then, like I said, the next day we go shooting. We take a little break in the afternoon. We also went to Nando's. We took them to Nando's to eat. They loved Nando's. And then we went to Top Golf at night. We even stayed in like an extra hour. We booked 2 hours and then stayed an extra hour and
Nice.
hit. And I didn't do great like I'm capable of, but for somebody who has loved golf for a long time and hasn't hit a golf ball in a while, like a couple years, that I actually did okay. I was starting to. It was there. It's
Yeah.
in there. It's in there. You know what I mean?
We'd have to take you golfing a little more.
Yeah, we
regularly.
could do. I definitely. The only bad thing about that is, at least how we did the Top Golf, and that we played their games that they have that you can do for points and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's a lot less like
I,
golf
I
than it is more actual just.
and that's okay, and it's okay. But I mean, I needed to just ball,
Yeah.
just hit, just to get a rhythm.
Yep.
Because I have this really bad habit, dude. Like, so when I like take
Hold-
the club back, like I
Hold it like a
almost
baseball?
I almost ungrip and then regrip at the top, and it makes
While
it
you're
really loose
swinging?
while I'm swinging. So like, but then once I got it where I was keeping that together,
Mhm.
but not so tight that the right, because you don't want your right, if you're right-handed, you don't want your right hand to take over. Your left hand should lead kind of through. And Dawn did pretty well too, you know, for her first time like hitting a golf ball. Like I give minimal instruction, like
To see
just
if, like,
enough.
how they figure it out.
Yeah, so it's a little bit easier, a little more natural. Just I give a couple things because I think men fuck up their girlfriends and wives when they try to give them instruction for because there's so many. I mean, you if you are a golfer, you actually understand that you can fuck yourself up by thinking about because there's 100 things to think about. You cannot swing a golf club and think about 100 things. It's impossible. So you have to figure out what's worth thinking about and what's not. And, you know, overwhelming somebody is not going to be good either, you know? As long as they're making contact at first and get them to enjoy it and have fun,
Exactly.
then they
That's the
come
point.
back.
Exactly.
That's the kind of what my approach is like that. So that was really great. And then yesterday, we took them to Over Easy,
Nice.
our breakfast place, you know, which they absolutely loved. And then from there, we went to Lifetime, and Dawn and I have hit a ball back and forth for pickleball.
Okay.
Um, but we have watched some videos of the pickleball guy, so to try to understand the rules
Gotcha.
before. But we kind of went over the rules again. But her daughter and Tommy, they do play pickleball.
Oh wow.
But we played by the rules. We lost the first 2 games, but they were good competitive games, and then we won the 3rd game. But yeah, I loved it. But I forget that I'm 57, right? And maybe if you play pickleball, you don't feel it later. I felt it last
Like
night.
the soreness of it. Yeah.
Just because the quick short sprints and running and stuff, and I still have, you know, my knees not 100%, and I should have had a brace on it, but we did good. You know, we stayed out of the kitchen. We called it like we did it like by the rules and switching sides when you serve and exactly how it's supposed to do.
I've never played pickle.
Well, yeah, it's actually not that hard to pick up, like the rules once you get going. It's actually pretty easy. But we did that, and they loved it. And then last night we took them to Bourbon and Bones, and that might have been the best place they've ever eaten, according to them. You know what I mean? And you know
it's a really
how
nice
good
place.
that could be, and how I am with ordering appetizers and desserts. But it was a pretty phenomenal time. Like I said, to be able to spend it with family and to do great American things. I mean, baseball and guns. I don't know what, you know, what gets better than that. That's all American. Yeah, that's it. And I posted some of that stuff on X, just kind of hoping, you know, like, you know, that liberals got to say something about MAGA and golf. Yeah, golf, guns, and Major League Baseball. I'm up to, how about this? I think I'm up to 520 some 500, like, there you go, 523. Woo, woo, woo. The goal by the end of the week, be at 600.
600?
600.
By the end of this week? All right.
I'm trying to get it
I'm
faster and
hoping that
faster,
works.
man. I am, but dang, man, she is ripped to shreds. Like, I have to get my shit together, brother. It's so funny. And that little tent thing there was a big help too. I have one, but we used his.
No, honestly, because
Because
that's
of the
honestly
heat.
the heat was
It was hot.
It was hot.
But it was actually bearable under this,
Under the
you
sheet,
know.
for sure,
But I
yeah.
did go into the truck for 5 minutes and take
I
a
don't blame
break.
you. I'll be honest with you. I
you
really
know.
don't blame you.
You can't not,
Especially out in the desert where it's
do
nothing
that.
but dirt. And like this, it's just, I feels like everything's like just reflecting the light onto you. It's just, yeah.
All right.
Where did you go shooting, by the way? Did you go?
Okay, so we go out to Hunt Highway, which is really close to here. Then we head to Florence.
Gotcha. Okay.
And between here and Florence, we weren't all the way to Florence, really, but it may have been, we may actually have been in
quote,
Florence,
unquote,
quote,
yeah,
Florence,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's so rural.
I get you.
And I wish I could remember the crossroad. If I was driving there, I could
You could
remember
tell,
it by the things again, because I want to be able. And we turn off, and it kind of almost dead ends about 2 blocks in, and then there's dirt paths. And in a couple of the spots, the dirt path, it's like a foot to 2 feet of dust. Kind of, not just it's soft, super soft.
Oh,
It's
more
not
like
it's not mud,
more like
sandish,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
And I don't know if Brendan's new Ram truck, I don't know if that one is
Meant to be
4-wheel
doing
drive
that,
or
yeah.
not, but he I don't know if he was almost getting stuck, but in Dawn's trail bus, we had fun.
Yeah,
That thing was
just
like
moving around in
just
that
moving
thing.
right through that shit. And so we go down, and then you're running right alongside a housing development, and about where that development ends, you take a right, and you just keep driving till you hit this railroad tracks back there, and then there's like a ditch next to the railroad track, pretty big ditch that's dry, and there's junk in there. People have thrown junk.
Just a
I
bunch of
hate that
random
they've
shit,
done
yeah.
that. You know what I mean? I don't like that. But that's where you'll see rounds laying all over
Just
on the ground and stuff. And so then there's like an old cooler out there, and he set one up against the cooler, and he has the bars. Like I said, I bought that yellow one to shoot at, but I'll have to get something to hang it
Oh, okay.
off of
Gotcha.
too, and set that out there. And then he set some trash can lid out there. We didn't really shoot at that much. We shot the handguns a little bit, and we went after that. But yeah, just set it out there and just bang away. Like, it's public land. It's legal to do. It's just like, you can't do that shit most places in the country, I don't think. I don't think you could do that in
There's a lot
Ohio.
of restrictions in a lot of different states about like where you can.
But
and cannot
here,
go
like,
shooting.
it's pretty open. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you can just go out and do that and have a good time, and, you know, set up it however you want. You don't have to worry about anybody else, or it was really, really nice, actually. So I think they'll all like it again. I think Dawn, you know, got into it. She definitely enjoyed it and want to do it again, and just be able to share like new experiences, you know, with your adult kids, you know, and
No, it's
and,
much different.
and especially now that Dawn has moved, you know, and I've already dealt with this, you know, I'd love to be able to see my daughter more often, you know, but she lives in Nashville. She lived in Chicago. You know, I was in Toledo. Now I'm in Arizona. And so, you know, especially as you're older, you treasure those moments and times to, you know, have the best time you can with your kids. And it's not always about the amount of time with me either. I kind of knew this as my daughter was growing up, that because I remember certain things growing up. I don't remember everything. You kind of remember maybe how you felt in general, but like specific
get the very,
instances and trying to create those is an okay thing to do. And we did that, you know, because obviously, you know, just being totally transparent, Dawn wanted it to go perfectly. And I'm like, man, you cannot set those expectations at the beginning like that. You gotta, just let it just
Plan
let it
out for the
just
best
let it
and
just
just let it
happen.
run
It's
through,
gonna
yeah.
be good. We got this. I know what I'm doing. and having fun. And we did shopping the one day, and we got them to shop with us. We did that too. That was fantastic. And yeah, and it turned out there was not even a single hiccup of anything. So it was about as close to perfection as it could have been, but I think that happened by you just got to let it happen.
Yeah.
You know, uh, and it did. They talked, we talked. We learned more about Tommy. You know, they've been together for like a couple years now, and so Dawn knew him previously before moving here, but in talking and being together as much as we were, got to know more about him, and just a great guy. And Danielle's a great young woman, and we just it was really really good. Yeah, um, that's to me what life is really about, and enjoying those times together. And hopefully, I think they'll be back. They enjoyed their time in Arizona. It wasn't maybe as long a vacation, but with work, and some people have restrictions that we don't have.
Very true.
We are very very blessed at what we're able to do and when, but we definitely made the most of the time that they had here. And then to me, the other big thing is that they had to that they want to come back. Enjoy that with us in the future. And Dawn can go to St. Louis anytime she wants, and I may even go to St. Louis, but I'd rather entertain them here, to
Here
be
in Arizona.
honest.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I don't have anything, against St. Louis, and I'm like, but
Arizona a little bit better than
well,
St. Louis.
Dawn knows St. Louis, but it's still like
The activity.
I've been there. You know what I mean? It's not a big destination vacation
visit, yeah.
place. I mean, you might go for different things or whatever, and if it's for them, that's one thing. If they have something going on, or that's different to do that. But this is a vacation place, and we're just lucky to live where other people vacation, and it's beautiful, and the blue skies and the mountains, and they just loved it because it's much like Ohio there. It's the Midwest.
A lot of clouds.
A lot of clouds, a lot of gray skies, just humidity, the whole thing,
God, no.
God,
I
no,
I
dude.
could not do humidity. I was just having a conversation with someone. I'm like, because they're from Florida, and I'm like, do you really enjoy the humid heat? And they're like, yeah, it's great. And I'm like, there's no way I could walk around humid heat. There's no way.
Here's the thing. Here's what they're not saying. It's not that they enjoy the humid heat, because nobody does. The thing is, they don't know any different.
That doesn't make sense, yeah.
They don't know I didn't know any different.
They don't
dude.
experience the dry heat.
And I did experience the dry heat coming here and vacationing, but it's not the same as living here. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
It's
No,
just,
100%, yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
not the same as living here. Totally different thing. And then after you're here for a minute, 6 months to a year, and then you go back to an area that's humid,
yeah.
then you're like,
What the fuck?
then you realize how much you didn't like humidity,
Yeah.
because you never knew you didn't like it, because
You didn't know anything else.
that's just all you knew, and you accepted that as life. And maybe that is a lesson, that you don't know what you don't know until you experience it. Go experience and do these things. And like Tommy was describing, he's a welder.
Welder, wow.
He's a welder now, yeah. And he's done some different things, but he's a journeyman welder now. He's got a couple years in the program. It's a 5-year program, and he's just loving being a welder, and just a lot of great opportunities. Obviously, being a welder in Missouri, it's about schools mostly, and he's worked on a nuclear project, which is cool. That's the kind of stuff, man, especially the energy, that I'm all for. Natural gas power plants, nuclear energy, that we should be doing more of. and permitting faster. We should be making the process easier for us to do better for those kinds of things. And that's clean. I mean, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Nuclear energy is clean energy. It's clean. And the facilities are nothing like, 3 Mile Island, or Davis Bessie was similar to 3 Mile Island, with the big nuclear reactors and the steam plants.
Gotcha.
And that's what's coming out there. People think like that they're
It's
like pollution or
yeah.
something. Dude, it's steam. It's no different than you fucking having boiling water on your fucking stove. It's the same
thing,
thing,
yeah.
dude. It's just water. So, but they're much smaller now, more compact, and we need this energy for all the things that we need to do in the future that are happening right now. Like with, I don't know if America understands this as a whole, the general public. AI needs energy. It uses shit. I mean, you know that because you're into the computer stuff and all the stuff that we do. AI uses a shit ton of energy, and they need more of that. And they're even creating, where a nuclear or maybe an energy facility is going right next to these areas or
Yeah.
businesses that do that because they need so much.
Yeah, and they also need, I believe, the cooling down the computers that they use for very complex AIs is also a lot. Like they use
Yeah.
a lot of liquid to keep it all cooled down and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they pretty much entire like quadrant of like wherever they build the power plant or whatever or AI, they'll have their water and then the energy.
Exactly.
Like, back
They have
back.
to.
They have to. Yeah. No. Yeah,
They have to. And that's not a bad thing. But, we're behind. There's tremendous opportunity. I've been saying this for years too, is we have so much infrastructure needs. Now, I think I will actually do something most liberals won't do, and that is I'll give Biden a little bit of credit for including, because Trump wanted to do this, but we didn't get as much done as what they wanted to do, is infrastructure, working on infrastructure, bridges, just roads, just everything.
Yeah.
The electrical grid, everything. Now, where my criticism of Biden is when we're doing his green energy bullshit. I'm sorry, people need to get over it. It would actually be a good thing if we stop the windmills. Out of all the different types of energy, the one that, can you imagine using up miles of land and putting these things for what? For how much are you getting from that when in a square mile or 2 square miles, you could be putting one of these nuclear facilities that are safer, better, cleaner, and natural gas. Yeah, you have to pull natural gas. You get it from, but we have more of that than anywhere else in the world. We're not even coming close to like running out of it. So we should be using that up. I don't understand. Like, I don't want to pollute, but I'm not somebody who believes in man-made climate change. I think we can pollute a particular area to where it makes that area bad for a little bit, and that we need to clean that up. I want clean water, clean land, clean air, like I think most people do. But it's not changing the climate of the earth or the world. That just changes and has always changed and changed dramatically over millions of years. I don't believe we can stop that. We can stop unnecessary pollution, or we can have things be more efficient. And I'm all for that type of efficiency. So I guess what I'm getting to is in places, especially big cities, I don't really want an electric bus. But why aren't they running on natural gas? That is a thing. Natural gas powered vehicles. you know?
Mhm.
All these big city buses in LA or New York or Chicago, they could be running on natural gas and just be cleaner. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be expensive because natural gas is not expensive because we have so much of it. I mean, we have so much of it, we can send it to other countries as liquefied natural gas. And we stopped doing that. We stopped, they were stopping us from building the ports that are needed
The rigs to
to
rig
take
the
it
oil. Yeah.
to then ship it across, seas. But because we stopped that, guess who filled the gap?
Middle
Countries like
East.
Russia. Like, okay, so you're an ally of us, Germany. You're an ally. We're all a part of NATO to protect you from Russia. But you're getting natural gas through a pipeline from Russia? That makes sense. Like, just world and safety and everything. It just seems like a good idea all the way around to be utilizing these things. And these are things we should be coming together on. Like, that shouldn't be a side.
Mm.
You know what I mean by
Yeah.
that? It's like, like I get that, we can disagree on windmills, for example. I totally get that. We can have our disagreement. We can debate that. But there are some that we should be able to come together on. And a couple of those definitely should be natural gas and nuclear power. We should be able to agree. We may, like I said, I just want clean air. That's all. I just want clean air and less pollution and stuff. These people may actually believe in the whole climate change. Well, we both get what we want here. Okay, even if I don't believe in your reasoning for it, we still both get kind of what we want.
Yeah.
In that, I kind of think. So, yeah. So it's just tremendous opportunity for young people. And I think that's one of the things that Trump is trying to promote, that we've gone overboard with college. I'm not against college. I sent my daughter to college. Could my daughter do what she does now if she hadn't gone to college? There is some value, I will say. There is some value to meeting people and relationships that you get in college. And my daughter also did that while she was in high school because of the kind of school that she went to. So I get the value of that for some. I just wish, we did things a little bit differently, that we utilize community colleges more to, keep the costs down, or, the costs should not be what they are. And it's because of government interference a lot that when the government gets involved, things seem to get more expensive. And it just seems like that for everything. But could my daughter do the job that she does now without that? Probably. I really think so.
Yeah, a majority. I think a
she's-
majority of jobs nowadays you could, because you really only need a proper teaching of whatever you're doing,
Yes.
and then everything else is just kind of extra, like information. And honestly, sometimes it will hinder your performance and work, knowing other additional kind of like things.
That's a great point. See, I don't know what other countries do because I don't have time to study all that shit. I don't know what they do. But wouldn't it be smart then for what you just said if maybe, learning what you're talking about, learning something specifically, if it was a 6 to 9 month course specifically on that, and that'd be it.
Yeah, I was.
And you get certified in that,
in
if
that
in
specific
that
job.
specific thing.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
That's, I've always.
Wouldn't
thought
that be better? Like education, it'd be cheaper.
It'd be
right?
much cheaper. It'd be more efficient. You would have.
And the business is getting what they want.
Exactly.
We need people that know this.
Exactly.
And so maybe businesses should take that on. Some businesses that have the ability to, your bigger companies, and specifically train people. Here's the one thing that college is for, and it's much like someone's first job.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically to help you become disciplined, and young people are not always good at this. Look, Dawn will even tell you she struggled her first year in college. She's a nurse. She finished. She graduated from Purdue, but she struggled that first year, and a lot of people do. My best friend, he was a great student. He's a teacher. Awesome. He struggled his first year in college because it was new for him. He never got in trouble when he was in high school. I was the friend that got in trouble. Okay. He lived a little vicariously through me, I would say. But the partying, the fun, or it takes over, and you
kind of
lose
like
sight that first year.
Exactly.
It's a very common thing.
Oh yeah.
But it's designed for people to learn and be disciplined to show up someplace 5 days a week or whatever, or designed to show up certain amount of time, to be given a project or work to do and then complete that in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about the discipline of learning that, not actually always the learning of
the education, like the material.
The English or learning English lit or some bullshit. The most important aspect is showing up, doing that. That's what you're showing an employer in the future.
Yeah.
Is that you've went through this process and you showed up, and at the end they gave you this diploma that says you were there and you completed the work. And they're hoping that you got something out of it, right? Yeah, but for a lot of people, that is not the best path. And there are so many opportunities, especially for men, I feel like, in the construction, in the trades, and that's what you're getting paid while you learn. That's what being a journeyman is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to make, depending on the trade, but if you're talking about welding,
that's a good amount of money.
Dude, you're probably starting out around 25 or so.
Probably
or
a little bit more.
Maybe.
Especially nowadays, because welding has gone up in
and then you're going to be 55, 60 once you're a journeyman. And then like what we were talking about, the overtime, like that he's working 5 10s there, and then an 8. So he's working 6 days a week, Monday through Friday. And it usually in unions, it's overtime after 8 hours, not 40. See, like when I worked in the pizza crust factory when I was 17 years old, you didn't get overtime until after 40.
Yeah.
So if you worked half a shift for somebody after your shift, that didn't count until the end. Like when I worked union, let's say I was sick one day and didn't show up, but the previous day I worked 10 hours, 8 of it was regular time and 2 hours of it was overtime, even though I didn't get my full 40 in, say, because I had that sick day off. Do you understand what I'm saying?
That's not bad.
That's not bad, dude.
That's not a bad
It's
deal
not
at
terrible.
all,
And he has great insurance. He talked
great.
about that. They typically have, really good insurance too. But the opportunity, I'm just saying that pretty much everywhere. And he was just amazed at what building and construction we have going on here. And then, like I said, currently he's doing a lot of work in schools. And it's just nonstop, school after school, that they're either a new school or existing school, that things that need redone, retooled, you got to replace the air conditioning and the pipes and things,
just like
over
smaller
time.
kind of things around the entire building.
Yeah. And it's not just, there are other parts of welding that isn't just your typical welding either, that he talked about. But a great, opportunity for someone in a very decent amount of time to get over that $100,000 mark and do well without having, a $400 monthly payment to school. And it's just, school's just not for everybody. It just isn't. But we were taught, starting with my generation, it was really pushed how important school was. Like that, you have to do that. If you don't do that, you're not going to be able to make a good living and stuff. And then here I am, planning to go to school most of my years until I went to a trade school as a junior and senior that for me anyways, that I was able to get into a business, and it was not easy to do. But becoming a financial advisor, the people that I was competing against all went to college for finance or economics or accounting or something like that. That's who I competed with. And those were like, you had to have that to get the interview. And I didn't have that. And so it was hard to get the interview and to get in. But I did find a way and did do it, and then did very, very well without that college education, and learned and became really good at what I did. I don't think enough credit is given for self-learning. Now, everybody's maybe not capable of that, but I'm self-taught. But I think of that, Brendan just popped into my head too. He's good at taking on something he's never done before and using common sense and just going step by step, or reading it and trying to follow along, reading the directions. He's good at reading the directions and following it and see what happens. And if you get stuck, we have videos now. We have Chat GPT. Look, dude, true story. This is totally stupid. When we were riding in the Range Rover, they couldn't get out of the back seat. A button was hit or something that made it like child-proof, so they couldn't open the rear doors. And we couldn't find where this button was. And I was frustrated enough, like, this is stupid. I finally asked Chat GPT, this kind of vehicle, this, boom, and I got the answer like that. I must have bumped the button. Okay, that's the button. Boom, hit it, and it was done. Like that. We can get answers so fucking easy now that it's just there. I didn't have to open them before. Manual. You'd have to open the manual, find the section for the page and the door and all that shit, dude. Yeah. You do not have to do that. And for what you're doing now and what you're creating, you're talking to other people that are doing what you want to do, or have different experience and things. So you get some knowledge and stuff that way. But it's figuring it out as you go, and what parts, and there's different parts of what you do for technology and setting up a studio and doing this and lights and different lighting and what works and what's successful, and just figuring it out along the way. What you're learning and then what you're building for yourself, I don't know if that could be a class.
It definitely is. That's
or a college thing, but could it be where you learn different things and it's just something specific that you can learn to pick? That there probably could be.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a or at least like a past YouTubers or whatever that will sell you courses on like what like steps to do and kind of like.
I think that kind of stuff is undervalued.
No, it's actually overpriced is what it is.
Is that what it is,
It's
you think?
super. It's because the technology world, everything's so expensive, like the lights, the computers, the cords, that they're able to sell courses at a much higher price than what, or at least from what my research is.
Here's what I'm throwing out there is, like, with some of these courses, the places have been sued because people have said they didn't deliver what they're supposed to deliver. Well, did you do the work you were supposed to do? If it's a course on, buying real estate and getting into real estate with almost no money or whatever, like, did you really follow through? And I bring that up because I wish I remember the guy's name. I wish I still had the book that I got, because I won't say flunked out. I almost didn't make it as a financial advisor.
Gotcha.
And you've heard a little bit of the story, but like, I started out with a company called IDS, and as a financial advisor, doing actual financial planning, not just trying to sell the hot stock of the day like Merrill Lynch or whatever, real financial planning, and then implementing that. And I was able to, use that as a stepping stone to get in. There were some issues with the branch and some things I was with, and so it wasn't the company; it was other advisors that were out of that office that I had an issue with, and I left and went independent, and that wasn't working out well. And then I went in with my brother-in-law, who was more established, learned some things from him on marketing and doing things. Well, he bought this course, and it was a marketing course, because it doesn't matter how good you are if you have nobody to do it for. If you know how to do everything plumbing, but nobody is calling you to do the plumbing, you're going to be a broke, smart plumber, okay? There's the marketing of it if you're going to be in business. And that's the part I wasn't good at, was the marketing. And he tried this. It was considered not professional in some ways by some people in the financial business. And I think my brother-in-law felt that way a little bit at the time, that they stopped using this program. And I said, hey, I knew he paid, $2,000-$3,000 for this. I'm like, hey, can I use that? And I did. And I started implementing it. And it was how to do certain advertising and how you make an ad with a headline, how you test the ad. And that same procedure that I used for newspapers and stuff, it's almost no different than what Alex Hormozy talks about testing ads when that shit first started with Facebook, when it was super cheap to do those kind of things. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, no, we do not need CNN. Stop it. Oh, my God. There we go. That's so funny. Oh, Jesus. There we go. I know, right? But it was definitely like that. But I was able to do that. I was able to apply that. But I'm sure some people bought that course, didn't really try to implement it, and then, oh, that's a ripoff. No, it actually wasn't. I learned, I would not have become the financial advisor I was without that. I credit that with everything for me, and being able to get leads and get potential client names and then get them into my office, and the whole process of how that stuff works, I got from that course. So I'm just saying, sometimes, I realize some things may be a waste. I spent money. I spent like between $5,000 and $7,000 on a course, maybe 10 years ago or something like that, because I got into the whole multi-level marketing with Thrive and Lavelle, and it was a system on managing and recruiting people. And dude, I never implemented it, never used it, but I don't blame them. What happened is the other part, the consulting part of my business that I do today, started growing and growing so fast. I couldn't dedicate the time to this that I believe would have produced results, but at a much slower rate. But for somebody who didn't have something else going on like I did, that probably would have been perfect for them to be able to do. And I still look back a little bit like,
I should have probably read into it a little bit more.
I should have, but it's like I said, it was just really hard to do with the amount of money. So do I feel like I wasted it? Dude, they're all lessons. They're all lessons. And life is a hard teacher, and it's also an expensive teacher. There was a time when I got in business right before I lost everything. I got it and had money. I got into business with a guy. I had owned a restaurant as a young person. We were going to start a bar in a restaurant. We had already gotten the building and stuff, and we ended up defaulting on everything when we were so close to opening, because the rest of my shit fell apart because I was the one funding it. And because my financial business fell apart, I didn't get to complete that. And so I lost, that was, 50 grand just gone. It was a $50,000 lesson. And it didn't help that the guy I was partnering with was stealing some of the money and was a crook, but using my money for the restaurant to make his house payment. Oh yeah, dude. Shit like that happens. Well, if you check out Alex Hormozy's story, and the beginning and how he got started and business with different people. He had people rip him off hundreds of thousands of dollars that he got into business with. But then he kept going. You know what I'm saying? And look
That's
where he
what-
is now, and
see,
he's
that's-
worth $500 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get
It's
that.
crazy to think about like that, and it's hard. And you can be bitter. Look, dude, I can look over my life and I can find lots of ways to be bitter and mad at people that I think fucked me over. And if you knew the story, you'd probably say, yeah, they kind of fucked you over, dude. Because nobody likes to admit that stuff, that they got fucked over. Nobody likes to deal with that. And especially me, because, you know, I also have a little bit of a side that would prefer the old days,
Gotcha.
like the mob, you know, like where you just eliminate somebody like that. I'm not going to lie. I mean, that's in there. That's just me telling the truth. But I know that I can't, and it's not important. And I have to put it aside that what I have over here, because again, I also, part of my story that you're well familiar with is over $15,000. Someone owed me $15,000. And because I got so wrapped up in that $15,000 somebody owed me, it cost me
Million.
$3 million business and almost $1 million year income, which definitely would have reached by now way over, you know, it would have been several million. And maybe I would have been smart to expand and hire other reps and
Even
been
bigger.
making tens of millions of dollars. That was the potential. But I fucked that all up over 15,000. And so sometimes you got to swallow hard and you hate losing it. It seems like it's a chunk of money, but you got to let it go. And you just got to move on. And that is a hard thing. But I think that's kind of where I'm at with the whole political landscape and everything that's going on is there. I could have played the victim, and I could have legitimately played the victim role and got wrapped up in the victim role. But I had to accept that my blame in allowing that to happen in the first place and look at it that way, because then I could change. I could move on. I could do other things and focus on that. But you can't have wrap up so much hate into that one thing and then be successful over here. It doesn't work. And that's what I see right now in the landscape. I see, you know, people all wrapped up in stuff that's like, you got to figure out a different way. That's not going to serve you well. And there's a lot of bad information out there and people getting worked up about it. And I'll participate in it on social media, obviously, but I'm also separate myself from that. I don't get so wrapped up in that I let it affect what I do, what I'm doing as a business, what I'm trying to grow here, because it just won't work. It just won't work. And it didn't work for Republicans. Okay, I don't believe Republicans hated Obama as much as these Democrats hate Trump. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I will say this, that the one biggest mistake that Republicans made with Obama is they opposed Obama, that they didn't have an alternative, that they didn't have something positive. They weren't giving people a reason to be pro-Republican or pro-conservative. They just were anti-Obama. And one of the things I'm a very strong believer in that you know about, too, is that I'm a strong believer in what you focus on, you attract more of things that are positive or negative. So if I'm focusing negatively on Obama, you know what I'm going to get? More negative Obama. So, and that's why he won re-election, because I was focused on that.
On him getting reelected.
I was focused on him, and we weren't focused on our own person. You know, just being against something is not a good strategy for either side. You're going to have a better opportunity to be pro than you are going to be negative. And I think we have better results if both sides did that, and then people had more better choices. That's just my point of view on it. But yeah, we focused on being anti-Obama, and all we got was more Obama. And that was definitely not the answer. And for them right now, being all, anti-Trump, that is exactly what they're going to get. They're focused so much on Trump, you're getting more Trump. Because you have the positive stories, whether they come from Fox News or MAGA people or whatever, you have that, right? But then if it's MSNBC and they're all anti-Trump, they're still all Trump. You're still putting all Trump out there. So they're getting more Trump. The thing that they oppose, they're getting more of because they're putting it out there. And so you got to be, careful about those kind of things, but like we're just going to let them do it for now, I think is what we're going to do. So it's kind of weird, in talking about this in a weird way. I've kind of, without talking specifically a lot of politics this morning, still come around to where I believe that we definitely, that message, what I've been thinking about I've still been able to get that across this morning and kind of share that with you all. But that's my one strong message, man, is look, do what you got to do to focus on your thing, to focus on your economy, because that's what's going to matter most, in the things in your life. And you can't get wrapped up in this other stuff so much that you're missing out on these things, these moments with family, with friends. Because, again, we have we take for granted so much of this country that we're spoiled. We complain about the dumbest fucking shit because we're Americans. And we get to complain about dumb shit because we don't have to deal with all the true terrible things. We just don't have to. That are more of a priority in other places around the world.